Deathpixie disclaimer. This video was originally recorded in September 2024. There is swearing and profanity. Sources are listed in the description. This video is not monetized. Any ads you see provide revenue to the hosting site, not the creators. If you made it this far, geez, you have a lot of patience.
Deathpixie dancing on the lip of madness!
Welcome to Shitty PowerPoint Theater. Dignity not included.
Speaking of Lester B. Pearson,
Yeah.
let's talk about war hero and Nobel Prize winner Lester B. Pearson. So he's for the Liberal Party. Served a good term. He and his wife Marion Moody had 2 children, which included Jeffrey. Where's my little animation? I'm missing my little animation for him. Yeah.
Oh, there we
Look at
go. Hey, look. It's his Nobel Prize!
Exactly.
The thing that the thief said he shouldn't have.
Now then. I couldn't find a decent con for this man.
Yeah.
I couldn't. The only con that people said was he called for elections a lot, or he had things sent to Parliament a lot. But I mean, it turns into something where, like, okay, we're arguing about this, let's vote on it. Like, all right, no one's agreeing, let's vote on it.
Yep.
He had a lot of royal commissions that helped create legal equity for women and bringing official bilingualism in. French was made an official language with him, and the Canadian government providing services both in English and French happened. He hoped he would be the last unilingual Prime Minister of Canada. So when he left, that bilingual aspect became a requirement. Like, he introduced universal healthcare with Tommy Douglas, the Canadian Student Loan Program, the Ontario Pension Program, Order of Canada, the Maple Leaf flag. I don't care what you say. I like the fact that we have a Maple Leaf flag. It is up there with the Welsh flag having a dragon on it. It is distinctive, and I like it. Also, continuing 40-hour work week, 2 weeks vacation. I mentioned the royal commissions. There was a bill that his government passed which de facto abolished capital punishment in Canada by restricting it to a few capital offenses, but it was never used and eventually will go on to be abolished. Kept Canada out of the Vietnam War. Military unification happened. We have the Auto Pact. New higher minimum wage for workers in federally regulated areas. This is important because when the government sets the stage for a certain minimum wage, private corporations have to follow if they want to stay competitive. First country in the world to implement a points-based immigration system with John Diefenbaker. So when I mentioned...
This is before it was bastardized by economics.
Yeah. It was bastardized by economics, but this was a way to get rid of discrimination. It was supposed to create, this is a cut and dry points-based system. Has it been meddled with? Yes.
Yes.
Is there room for improvement? Yes, but this was a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
The final and only residential school that was in Nova Scotia was closed in 1968, just for those who are keeping track on that. Politics is the skilled use of blunt objects. Who would have thought this man would have said that? So there's a lot of points on here. He was actually a noted athlete and did a lot of different sports. He ran back-to-back minority governments.
Yeah.
Do you see how much he got done with minority governments?
Yeah.
Like, crazy.
But I think that goes to show the difference of opinion at that time. Think about it. We're going through 2 world wars. We have And we know that, 10, 15 years down the line is when the Great Recession happened. A lot of the programs that Lester B. Pearson put into place were to combat the Great Depression. Mm-hmm. It was also the rise of Keynesian economics, which was saving when times are good and spending when times are either bad and or uncertain. Mm-hmm. And you see that a lot with a lot of Pearson expansion. And Keynesian economics was very popular at the time, regardless of party standing. So you can see, even with a minority government, how he was able to get a lot done. There were a lot of commonly held ideals across both left and right wings, which we don't see a lot of. I would argue Pearson's the last one where we see a lot of them. Mm-hmm. held, and it becomes more and more divisive the further you get into history from here.
Yeah, I'm gonna note something. So he was a war hero in
World War II.
Thank you, World War II. That involved defending and liberating France.
Yeah.
When Pearson was Prime Minister, he was the first Canadian Prime Minister to visit France. And that was an official state visit, the first one to do that. President de Gaulle actually showed up in Canada and in Quebec gave his infamous Vive le Québec libre speech. And that was massively offensive. He was essentially, what the president was doing was he was basically saying that Canada is doing to Quebec what the Nazis did to France, and there could be nothing further than the truth. Quebec has always been involved in the formation of Canada, and we went through that with Confederation. We've gone through it now. We've even seen it with Wilfrid Laurier. So to show up in somebody else's country of somebody who was part of the group that liberated your country and say that in 1967 is insanely offensive, but it also re-sparked these calls of, we need to separate, we have a distinctive culture, we have this, we have that, and it's like, look, are there still tensions between French and English Canada? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. But do not for a second act like they are treated like the Nazis were treating the French under occupation. That not the same thing, and it is deeply offensive, and on a personal level offensive too, when you think about how soon after World War II this was happening. Really was offensive. Pearson responded by saying Canadians do not need to be liberated, which made it clear that the president of France was no longer welcome in Canada. So it was actually quite offensive to make that comparison, and I can see why he would have been very angered by it. Yeah. Okay, there is so much that Pearson did with the United Nations in his military career. He was he worked a lot with the United States. William Lyon Mackenzie King is the person who convinced him to come over into politics. Yeah. And he had an established... And you can
see that a lot with the policies and the programs that he chose to expand.
Mm-hmm. He also did so much with the United States. That's why Kennedy didn't like Diefenbaker, because the U.S. knew Pearson. They knew how to talk to him. They knew how to communicate with him. They didn't know Diefenbaker. And as you can tell, Diefenbaker was
not exactly the most personable guy.
No. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. There's a really good quote: "Whether we live together in confidence and cohesion, with more faith and pride in ourselves and less self-doubt and hesitation, strong in the conviction that the destiny of Canada is to unite, not divide, sharing in cooperation, not in separation or in conflict, respecting our past and welcoming our future." So there's a lot to happen there. And then we have another surprisingly shady quote from him. Yeah. There are so many, but this is a 2-part episode and it's going on forever. But here it is. The grim fact is that we prepare for war like precocious giants, and for peace like retarded pygmies.
Yeah.
And there are so many layers to that. But you are talking about somebody who he knew the effects of war. He knew what it does to people. He saw what happens to people without support. And he was recognized by King as William Lane Mackenzie King as being a key person. And he was.
He absolutely was.
We are going to be...
Yeah.
Do you want me to go through his CV now, or do you want to say your words on him?
Lester B. Pearson is one of my favorite prime ministers.
I can see why.
Yeah, of all time. If you look at the programs that he either expanded upon or introduced, it's landmark policy for Canada, regardless of how you feel left or right. Landmark policy all the way around. And even his cons, you can say, are pros. He was very, very big into the expansion of current relations in Canada, whether you like them or not now. Back then, absolutely landmark. Again, he's one of the best to ever do it, and it says a lot that a great majority of his time, if not all of it, was spent in minority governance. This is what you can do when you're willing to look over at the other side of the table beyond just specific platitudes. Pearson could do what I would argue no other prime minister, left or right, could really do.
Now, for his CV. So he did some World War II medic type service. And then he was in Britain's Royal Flying Air Corps, where he served as a flying officer. As a pilot, he actually got the nickname of Mike because the flight instructor felt Lester was too mild a name. Apparently, he said, "That's a sissy name, you're Mike." He was hit by a bus in London during a citywide blackout and was sent home to recuperate, but was then discharged from service. He went to U of T and got a Bachelor of Arts. He was elected to Pi Gamma Mu Social Sciences for his outstanding scholarship performance in history and psychology. He participated in the sophomore theatrical tradition of the Bob Comedy Review. He did actually work in meatpacking for a year and hated it. Won a scholarship to study at St. John's College in Oxford for 2 years and got a bachelor degree with second-class honors in modern history and then a master's degree as well. He was in the Toronto History Department as an instructor, and he helped coach U of T's football and hockey teams. Then he moved to the Department of External Affairs after scoring top marks on an entrance exam, and he was assigned to the Royal Commission on Grain Futures and the Royal Commission on Price Spreads. He was assigned to the High Commission of Canada in the United Kingdom, served at Canada House in London during World War II, and as the second in command, where he coordinated military supply and refugee problems, serving under the High Commissioner Vincent Massey. Assistant Undersecretary as well, posted to the Canadian Embassy in Washington. This is where he started his relationship with the U.S. As a ministerial counselor, he was also a Canadian ambassador to the U.S. He had a very important role in forming the UN and NATO, which we've touched on. He was the Secretary of State for External Affairs under King before King retired. He then had a House of Commons seat. He was St. Laurent's Secretary of State for External Affairs, and he helped solve the Suez crisis between Great Britain, France, Israel, and Egypt by bringing forward St. Laurent's views on a UN military force, which created the United Nations Emergency Force or Peacekeeping Force and got the Nobel Prize. He was the leader of the Liberal Party. He following a massive defeat by the DEEF, Pearson had a significant thinkers conference in Kingston, and this event developed many of the ideas that he implemented later as prime minister. Became prime minister, he retired from politics, became chairman of the Commission on International Development, lectured at Carleton University, and he wrote his memoirs. Volume 1 was published before his death. Volumes 2 and 3 were published after his death, but were criticized for lack of authenticity because there was a bit of a bias from ghostwriters, because obviously he didn't finish writing them.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready for who's next?
Oy, bring it.
All right. We need to break soon.
Yeah.
I can tell it on your face. I can tell it on my face.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to stop recording right now.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you how much we have left, and you tell me if you want to keep going and then break, or if you want to take the long break now.
Okay.
All right, so.
Well, I mean...
Never mind. Fuck it. All right, I'll just show you. We have Trudeau.
Oh, no.
That's who's next.
Oh, no.
And after Trudeau comes Joe Clark and John N. Turner, which are all well and good. They're quick to get through. Then it's Brian Mulroney, who's not quick. Then we have Kim Campbell.
Who's not quick.
Kim Campbell.
Campbell's quick.
Then
Chrétien is not.
We get Chrétien, who's not. Paul Martin is quick. Stephen Harper is not quick. Not at all. And then we have Trudeau, and then it's the fun.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is, do we break and either reconvene after my daughter's asleep or on a different day? Because I'm like you. Part of me wants to plow through, but part of me also knows we need to break.
No, I completely want to break. My head is just like...
Hey, this is Trapdoor Crabsworth for deathpixie. If you liked our content, please like this video and subscribe. And if you want to see more, just check out our links in the description. Do it. Do it or Miri will kill you.